Another way is avoidance. It's not like I am avoiding people altogether, but just creating a safe haven for me to retreat when my sensory overload takes over me. The most common form of avoidance is creating a quiet and orderly home environment. This usually involves keeping the amount of noise in the home to the minimum. For example, avoiding the use of TV and/or radio as constant background noise. Sometimes, I will end up resorting to using earplugs at certain time of the day, as well as certain places that will be too loud for me. Another way to control overload from sound is through the use of headphones, a pair of remote headphones, that can connect to any device around the house, which I am currently looking for to solve my sensory overload to some noises. Some people use noise-canceling headphones to reduce the amount of noise they hear, which again, I am hoping to find something like those in near future. Sometimes, if there is a TV playing in the background, depending on what is on, especially action movies or some drama with sirens, solution for me when this arises is that I will keep the TV off and I only play music. Others report keeping light at low levels, sometimes through the use of dimmer switches. Another way to control sensory overload in the home is through order or reducing the sense of clutter. Now, many of you will be saying, why clutter? Clutter to me is frustrating, as I do like my space when it comes down to either preparing meals, or just having to do some other works that involves more room than just a tiny gap. Yes, I will admit that I am a perfectionist, and that I like law and order most of the time. So, I know where everything is, and I keep my personal space clean and tidy. Some people may call me a clean freak. But truth of matter is, it does not matter, as this is just how I go about doing my daily tasks and routines. Another form of prevention is to rest up ahead of big events. When family or friends get together, I rest for several days beforehand. Others may report that they minimize the effects of too much sensory information by responding quickly when they observe overload. When I am tired or really pushing things, my sensory overload is worse. The best thing that I can do is to drop what I am doing and totally rest. A final prevention strategy for me, which I do quite a lot, is to do one thing at a time. I try to only do one thing at a time, with very clear lists of what I will achieve next. E.g., put on a load of washing, pay the phone bill, have lunch. I try to complete the first task and then go and look at my list for the next task, so I won't hold all the tasks in my head at once. Many people assume that we Aspies or autistics feel less human than a neurotypical person. Correction to you all, that is the wrong way of thinking about us. We are all humans, as I have said before, and that we are who and what we are, despite our difference to you all. Sometimes, for most of us, we may fixate on just the little matters that people do not even notice at all. Yes, I have been told that I am imagining things, or that I am crazy, or that I must be stupid to think that way in the first place. Whatever you think about me as I am writing this, I am still human, and I do have feelings. Strong feelings and desires as such. I am a person that is spiritual and sometimes feel something is about to happen before it happens. Knowing what triggers us is not always the same as knowing what it feels like. A person who is not on the spectrum calls this a sensory trigger response of a fear or phobia of some kind. Yet, they may be right or onto something here. Here are more hypersensitivity to some senses that I experience and encounter often in my everyday life. Sensitivity to smells, yes. You heard that right. Many odors do get me to a sensory overload, such as certain fragrances like your colognes and perfumes. As some are really strong for me, and it does not help with some of the people I hang around, who tend to spray on too heavily on themselves. Do not get me wrong, personal grooming to me is important to a standard where we should both be able to stay in one room together. Some of these strong fragrances it gets me into trouble. As many people have been telling me, it is not what you say, but how you say it. I believe that rings true to me and needs to ring true to those in my social circle. Yet, it is up to them to decide how to go about this. I may, for some people, be too hard to understand. Yet, I am not hard to understand, as I am the kind of woman that does not ask for too much from others around me. I have noticed also when it comes down to me speaking my mind, there are a few one-sided people that will not listen or take on board what I may share. If that is what and how they feel about me, then what is the point of trying to talk to them? I just hope that we can come in the middle somewhere, of a mutual understanding and agreement, with a few things that we may share, despite our differences in opinions and experiences in life. Aspergers Syndrome diagnosis denial. My story. Many people with AS, or the ones that haven't been clinically diagnosed properly, tend to think that they could have been misdiagnosed with another condition that was already hidden. For me, when I was about 12 or 13 years of age, I was diagnosed with AS, and I had to go through series of tests through spelled NZ, as they thought that I had AD or some other learning disability. Before then, with what was going on, I had other learning disabilities, troubles with my speech, as well as making conversations. So, when I was in primary school, I had to undergo speech therapy classes and some other classes to get me ahead of time. Yes, like many young children, school was hell for some parts, due to being bullied and sometimes held back in class to do these extra lessons that were set out for me to do every day to gain confidence as well as to my speaking. At kindergarten, they felt, my being silent was normal for any child my age. So, that the teachers or special need teachers did their best in playing their parts, by assisting me in my needs of learning and care. Sometimes, with some of these underlying conditions that haven't been diagnosed, it'll either hide away or just is swept under the carpet where it's not understood. After getting the diagnosis of what I had, at first it was so overwhelming and hard to accept at the time, being young, and trying to fit in like any child would dream of doing, as well as every other activity that they so would love to do. I felt I couldn't accept and wouldn't want to accept it, as it felt so foreign and strange to me, and that something was wrong with me. At that stage also, there were some negativities playing in my mind, as well as confusion, self-doubt, etc., and I was trying to fit everything together. While in my teenage years, I was thinking of how others will accept me, what they would say or think about me, and many other questions a small child could have. I was, however, in denial for quite some time while going through what needed to be done for tests, therapies, and more. With the inner thoughts, I always ended up with depression after a while. So, I was fighting my demons and more, through it all. As I've grown up now, I've realized that I ended up self-diagnosing myself, and my parents didn't wish for me to do this as they felt it was not right and not in my area of expertise to do so. I noticed that there's not much funding that goes into people like me for many reasons to be able to get the right support and treatment or therapies that could be available for any of us. I have learned to accept it and just do the best I can to live my life to the full potential and to what I can give out to others around me. I believe that I can only manage AS and not be able to treat it, as there's no cure for AS. While in my teen years, there were so many situations that I faced and felt that the answers weren't being answered and that they were being ignored. I felt that, after being diagnosed with depression, nothing in this world will make me feel better. Yet, it is up to us, how and what we do in our lives to change our lives around, and that now is the time to change everything, despite what we had gone through. I didn't want to become a victim and everything else that was dragging me down. I believed in myself and knew in my heart that I could conquer this, as well as being able to look after myself. Many people may think, I'm too confident or whatever other labels, but that is fine, as I am now learning to love myself again, to breathe and do everything that I love to do. I am at peace with myself, doing what I love to do. I'm now at the stage of speaking my mind and being sure to be careful how I speak and feel. Despite that, I want to be different, and I am trying to accept the differences about me and that I want to make a difference for others by making a stand and telling my story. I hope many others will do the same. I feel that everything is starting to make sense to me and that it's a lighter weight on me now, as I can just be me. What I want to address here is that, for the ones that haven't been diagnosed or had been diagnosed but still can't put your finger on it, seek a second opinion, or even just read up about AS, self-teach and self-diagnose yourself. Like me, I'm a bookworm, and to this day, I am still teaching myself and learning everyday activities and just everyday life in general. This won't change, as it is going to be with you for life. It hasn't changed you. Build yourself with confidence, based on affirming what you are as a person. We are the ones that create our own stories, journeys, and more. No one else can do it for me but me.